DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay. Taking a look at the 5-game slate here, 8:15 and later, and it's a gross one. But, I mean, sizable prize pools. It might be one you maybe just toss a couple in to keep the night entertained.
Yeah, definitely. Or throw dummy lineups in non-entry formats and just watch them and see how you did. Sometimes that's just the best way to go. No, I'm just kidding. Definitely want to get something in there, but again, if you pay up at pitching, it's going to be an interesting journey into roster construction. That's for sure.
Definitely, and I think kind of jumping right into things, you're looking at average salary remaining. I mean, you toss in Scherzer and Matz, you got 3150 left over per position, and looking at catcher. I mean, this is obviously a spot to kind of pay down for tonight, just because of you want to try and get up in that couple hundred more range for average. And for me, I'm looking at these Mets catchers, depending on which one's in. I think Rene Rivera is probably going to be the one in there. That's probably who I'm going to be punting down to 23 and 2400, just trying to get some exposure to against Blair for cheap there.
Yeah, Mets catchers are definitely where it's at. Yeah, poor Wilson Ramos has one night to shine with no Buster Posey or Brian McCann, and he picked the wrong slate to be overpriced. So there's just no way you can fit him in unless you're totally paying down. But yeah, like you mentioned, I think you're looking in that mid 2K range for really anything, and it looks like one of the Mets is going to be there. So I think you just throw in whoever's there.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't mind David Ross at 2600 against lefty John Meese. I mean, we're going to talk about the Cubs quite a bit, but they also do offer a bottom half of the lineup that can hit lefties pretty well, and they're at reasonable price tags too.
Right. And in terms of Grandal 33K, James McCann if he's in the lineup, but I mean, not a perfect matchup against Volquez, but I think you kind of just roll with it.
Yeah, and I think if I am paying up or somehow have some extra cash or doing something weird at pitcher, Salvador Perez at 3700 is kind of who I'm leaning on. Just because, I mean, one, he's absolutely crushing right now. I mean, home runs wise, he's on an absolute tear, and I like these Royals right-handed bats quite a bit.
Yeah, Royals are streaking right now, and I think this is a good night to sort of take the risk that they continue it again in a decent matchup.
Yeah, definitely, and you know, another name. I mean, if Drew Butera somehow finds his way into the lineup tonight,
right,
you could look at him at 2400.
I definitely like that call. If he's in there, I'm definitely going to be throwing him in 2400, and he's actually been pretty good in like spot start duty this year.
Yeah, he has. And moving on to first base here, and one thing that kind of intrigues me, I mean, you look at those Tiger bats. I mean, we kind of talked about Volquez. I mean, not an obvious guy to pick on, but still a guy who can give him some damage. Those price tags for Cabrera and Victor Martinez really aren't that bad.
Hey, DK, can we get the option to stack the Tigers, please? Please? I just want my free will back, and I feel very confined right now and just in a box, because whenever you look at this lineup, I mean, when you can't stack the 3-4, it's just like, what the heck, man? Can you just put him at catcher, please? There's not 2 first basemen every night. They aren't both standing on first. This doesn't help me. Okay. Anyway, yes, I agree. The price isn't great, but in the same respect, we need to have a DH eligible spot so that you can either
let's talk about some first base here, and that's your personal DK rant. I think mind Hosmer, the price tag for the.
I don't mind them either. In terms of Eric Hosmer, I like that matchup if you can pay up for it, but you're not likely going to. The guy in the mid range I'm kind of looking at is Ryan Zimmerman. Freeman obviously been doing well against righties, but I don't like this matchup for him tonight. Obviously, Will Myers against Scherzer, you're not playing, so I think you kind of keep diving down. and you look at sort of one of the weaker bats in Washington's lineup this year, but he's actually been coming around a bit of late. So you got to like that matchup against Colin Ray.
Yeah, I agree. You look at Ray and them bad against righties. I mean, 243 WOBA allowed. Doesn't miss many bats, which is nice for Zimmerman's sake. And I'm with you. I like the price tag. I mean, 3,600 is not that bad.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, you're not really attacking the Freddie Freeman against Matz or Myers against Scherzer.
Right.
Adrian Gonzalez, James Loney, both at 3,100 in good spots. You look at Blair. I mean, he's been beat up. You look at Gonzalez. I mean, not really a big power showing, but he's still a guy who's going to get a couple of base knocks and do something there for you. So, but overall, I think those are the guys in that tier. I mean, you can look at Kendrys Morales as kind of your poor man's Eric Hosmer there.
Yeah, no, I definitely like Loney and Gonzalez, even though they aren't great options, but decent matchups and not killing you on salary. So I'm definitely digging that.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, outside of that, I can't really get behind any of these guys. I mean,
yeah, you can't touch the Pittsburgh guys really. And I mean, unless someone's a punt, you literally can't go lower. So that's literally what you're looking at there.
yeah, it's an ugly night. Moving on to second base here, and I don't find myself being able to pay up for anyone over 5K as far as second base goes.
Yeesh. Yeah, no, 3 guys over 5K really takes the sting. It really adds some grossness to the second base here because it's going to be so tough to pay up for those guys. I mean, especially if you're playing cash on DK, you just cross them off.
Yeah, there are a couple of guys in that high 3, low 4s. I mean, I like Whit Merrifield at 4,100 there against Boyd. Scooter Gannett's been coming around at 3,600. I don't mind him either. If I'm paying up for both spots, I mean, yes, they're a little bit higher than kind of our outcome, but overall, I definitely don't hate it.
Yeah, no, I don't hate those guys either. Merrifield is solid. Neil Walker again in another nice spot. I'm not worried about paying up for that necessarily, but I mean, I think you really want to start diving down here, depending on who's sort of in the lineup.
Yeah, and I think Kelly Johnson at 3,200 is probably going to be that way to go. You get some more Mets exposure there on the left side to Blair, and at that price tag, I mean, it's not a bad option because, I mean, really going below that, I mean, Omar Infante not really with the Royals anymore, Harrison against Lester, Solarte. You're just starting to dive down to all those cheaper, bad matchups.
It'd be really cool if Matt Reynolds decided to force himself into the lineup today, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. But yeah, other than that, I mean, it's just a lot of guys in bad matchups when you start diving down. So tough to sort of fit that in there.
Yeah, and I think you go down to Kelly Johnson, or you're just kind of looking at Whit Merrifield, Neil Walker range if you can.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I think that's the options we got here.
Yeah, and looking at third base here, Chris Bryant was held out of the lineup with the flu yesterday. You could see some value open up there if he sits out again. Once again, I can't really see myself paying up at third base, and I know a guy you like there is Javier Baez at 3,800.
Yeah,
who's hit lefties really well, cut down the strikeout rate, and obviously you can pick on Johnny's quite a bit with really 1 through 9 here on the Chicago team.
Yeah, I love that play. Obviously, he has the flexibility, and this is really the one guy I might have 100% of in terms of lineup construction tonight. I just think it fits in well. He's not too expensive. Obviously, he's had his moments this year, and I like the matchup in terms of pitching and splits. So 3,800, solid value and a cheap way to get Cubs exposure.
Yeah, definitely. Look at those Dodger bats there. I mean, you got Justin Turner coming off a monster game. Howie Kendrick's been hitting the ball pretty well of late, over 300 in the last 10. Chase Anderson's a guy who's been hit harder by right-handers, and he's allowed a 352 WOBA to righty since 2014, 1.41 homers per 9. Those Dodger bats, I think when we were talking about the pitcher pod, I prefer kind of going more after Anderson than I do Bolsinger here.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Um,
makes sense, especially with a guy like Kendrick. I'm totally okay with that at 3,100. That's super cheap. So, kind of the way you're looking at this slate, I don't necessarily love the Dodgers, but they do have some really nice values in their lineup for sure.
yeah, definitely. I mean, the Dodgers' offense has been so off my radar for most of the season, outside of
Hmm.
maybe a couple names here and there. And they are one of those teams that just on a full slate you completely overlook them. But
Yeah.
on a 5 gamer with their prices and in that matchup that's given one of the better ones on the night, even though it's still not perfect, you kind of still have to look their way.
And even their more expensive guys, then we'll get to that next. They're not even that expensive. So I think a lot of that lineup's definitely in play tonight. So it would be good for us if Anderson gets shelled.
Yeah,
That's basically the way I'm looking at that one, you know?
yeah, definitely. And outside of Kendrick, I mean, unless something opens up, in lineups down the line here, I can't see myself really diving down below 3,100.
Unless it's for Hernan.
You just love your precious Hernan Perez.
But yeah, for the most part, I agree.
Yeah,
Kendrick's the way to go.
yeah. Looking at shortstop here, and Corey Seager, I'm guessing was the guy you were talking about as far as the
Yeah.
Dodger bat. 4,300, not a bad price tag for him. Decent matchup against Anderson. And hitting in the top of the order, I do like Seager because I kind of plan on using Bays at third base there.
Hmm. Yep, I think the matchup isn't that bad. Obviously, Anderson's been better this year, but he's still Chase Anderson. So he's going to be smiling either way. But one of those where he's like smiling while he's getting punched in the face. You know what I mean? Yeah. But um, Asdrubal Cabrera is someone I'm definitely looking at, and someone I'm thinking about writing up today. He's someone in the middle of that Mets lineup that I think could pay some dividends today for sure against Blair.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, back-to-back games with the double, two-hit game a couple of games ago. 3,800 is not a bad price tag. And I do think, I mean, you kind of like the price tag of him and Bays right there. And
Hmm.
uh, spinning down for me, I don't mind Alcides Escobar as a punt play at 2,800, hitting up in the top of the lineup against Boyd. Big opportunity to get on, score some runs with that Royals offense right now. And outside of that, I mean, you can look at a Steven Drew who's come in and had some spot starts and has done pretty well in those
Hmm.
times that he has. Maybe something like that opens up at shortstop and you can be a little bit different there.
Right, and a back end Cub stack is actually in play. I think if you pay up at pitching, especially if you go Scherzer Lester and somehow want to try to make a lineup, I think that's definitely in play with Addison Russell and Bays. So I think you could throw another one in there, and if the Cubs get rolling here, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me to see some of those guys go off as well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I kind of plan on using some of those Cubs backhand guys, as far as one-offs and as a little stack because you look at their total, I mean, it's going to be relatively high against Nice, and guys like Bays have hit lefties pretty well. And at those
Mhm.
prices, I think that's not a bad move.
Definitely.
So looking at outfield here, and for me, I mean, with the pitching on tonight's slate, I mean, if I am paying up, it's probably going to be for Fowler or Cespedes. Those are kind of the two guys that I'm looking at that are above 4,500.
Yeah.
Just to run through, I mean, say you are paying down to pitching for some reason tonight, and those are kind of my two preferred plays up top.
Yeah, and weirdly, I don't hate Granderson at his price. I love that matchup against Blair, but I just don't think there's really any way to pay up for him unless you're saying you're going into the lineup saying, all right, I'm doing a Met stack, and you throw those guys in, and then you kind of just fit whatever you can around it. But in terms of like value wise, I don't think you can really play him. And Harper, I mean, he got the home run the other day. He's starting to get it rolling here. I could see another big day for him, but again, 5,200. That's a tough price to pay up for. So I'm with you. Fowler, Cespedes, probably the highest I'm going, and then you kind of just dive down after that.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this range here of 4,100. to about 38 that I like quite a bit. You're
Mhm.
looking at a Conforto at 41. You're looking at a Kane at 4K. I mean, that's where I start my tier one with in trying to get guys to pick. That's more of a reasonable tier one on tonight's slate with the pitching. A Trace Thompson at 39. So there's a couple different ways you can go there. I mean, you can even dive down lower, but that's a range that I think is reasonable to get one or two guys in.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I think you want to make your move, Conforto as well. I'm okay with that. But yeah, Lorenzo Kane, really solid matchup for him tonight. And that's someone I'm definitely focusing on and hoping I can get into multiple lineups.
Yeah, and looking at this Cubs team, I mean, I'm kind of I want to see what they put out as far as the lineup
Mhm.
because you look at Albert Amora Jr. there could be in the lineup at 3,400 lefty righty matchup against Nice. I would like him. Once again, Kelly Johnson pops up into play for me, or Howie Kendrick at 31. So there's different ways you can go. I mean, those guys that we kind of referenced earlier are still outfield eligible, and you can kind of move them
Yeah.
around uh,
Howie
just by need.
Kendrick. Yeah. Guys like that.
So, anyone else you kind of like? I mean, what about Ryan Braun at 3,900? Is he intriguing to you?
I mean, yeah, I like Ryan Braun. He's been super cheap for a few days now. Obviously, did well the other day. 3,900 for Braun is solid price.
Yeah, I like it quite a bit too. And he kind of falls into that range again. And um, I mean, Bolsinger's that game is the game's got potential to get some runs on board from both sides, but it also has a potential to be
Mhm.
maybe like a 4-3 game, and you got to be kind of selective.
Yeah.
But I mean, with their salaries, you're kind of forced into taking that game for offense.
Yeah, I think they're kind of forcing your hand into that game today, pretty much regardless. At least a few shares of someone in there. But yeah, overall, if you are paying up for pitching, I think that game has quite a few values.
Yeah, definitely. That's going to wrap things up here with the DraftKings Daily Trot. Be sure to check out dailyfantasycafe.com for all our great tools and content.